I'm staying up late and working. And I found that's the best time to get anything done is when the phone's not ringing,
Mhm.
you're not being pulled here or either any other directions. Everything's quiet
Yeah.
and I'm working.
Welcome to Creative Type Podcast. This is episode 22, interview with John Hamby. I'm Lori Rivera.
And I'm Jamie Haney.
And welcome to Creative Type Podcast.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, today we have a special guest, Evansville, Indiana artist, John Hamby. Welcome to the show, John.
Yeah,
Hey,
welcome.
thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We're really glad to have you.
Yeah.
You're our second artist that we've interviewed.
Wow. Aside from each other,
So
being artists.
aside from yes, well,
Yeah.
that's true. That's very true. Yeah. So
This
we're
is
here
cool.
to talk. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So I'm looking at your cool studio there in the basement.
I have what my youngest daughter described as an acid trip, which I don't think she's ever actually done that, I hope.
Hopefully not, right?
Yeah. But she said that our basement is an acid trip, and that's how I have my studio set up. I have a tree house in the lobby, that I call it, slash bedroom. Sometimes when I work really late, I just go to sleep down here and don't bother my wife.
Oh wow.
But I've got a tree house for the grandkids to play in, and it's made out of a crate, and it's got a foam carved tree underneath it. I used to have a bunch of foliage hanging around there, but I also have like catwalks where my cats can come and go, and yeah.
Oh wow. Now
So
that's
I gotta-
intricate.
You got it all set up.
It's cool. I'll have
I
to
think-
like pan around in a minute and show you.
Yeah. I think it looks
Yeah.
like a spaceship in there because you can see the silvering, and you can
Yeah.
see it up in mine too. I mean, there's
Yeah.
mine.
A basement is a basement, and there's also there's a part of it that's for laundry. So
Oh yeah, same
gotta
here.
have
Well,
two
not
and-
laundry, but multi-use on the
Yeah.
other end.
Well, since
Luckily.
I've been freelance and doing that exclusively, laundry is one of my daily tasks, and that's okay. It's just
Yeah,
what
if you're down there, that's part of it, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I'm a pan
Welcome to
around.
motherhood, John.
Yeah, really. Yeah, multitasking, and it's a new respect. Well, yeah, it's a new respect that I have. It's I don't know how you all do it, but it's amazing.
Sometimes
So-
we don't do it.
Yeah, add kids in there.
We
and
just
some
do the
pets
best we
and-
can.
And
Yeah,
paying bills.
yeah.
Yeah. All guys
Well-
marry. You should marry up. That's do that.
I told my husband he married up. He didn't like that. Okay, let's get started. Tell us about yourself, John. Let's ask you a few questions. How did you get started in the art world? Did you have parents that were artists, or were you just the born creative child?
Well, my mom was an art teacher, so
Oh, okay.
so yes, parents that were artists. My dad was an engineer. He made things and tinkered and repurposed things into different items altogether. So I've got a bit of that resourcefulness. Plus, I got my mom's art creative. She started me out. I was the third child, two sisters older than me, and a younger brother. But to have a boy all of a sudden in the mix, I was off the hook. I was crazy. She had to find something to do with me. So she gave me a light box. It was a wooden box with an opaque piece of glass and a light bulb in it. And I would take my coloring books and I would put a page on there and trace it, and then I would color my tracings. I never would color in a book, and I still to this day try not to do much of that. So that would give me
that's
an early
interesting.
eye-hand coordination. So
Oh yeah,
that's how it all started.
Yeah.
Well, that's very cool. So what age did you find yourself like really gravitating towards maybe considering this for a profession?
Well, it kind of coincides with my interest in girls and impressing them, So that was something that was certainly a way to catch some attention, and so I used it as such, And so I became kind of a show off. You start just doing that kind of thing, and I did. And I sold my first drawing in 5th grade. So
Oh, that's
Wow.
cool.
Yeah. So I've been a professional since then.
Yeah.
How much did you sell it for? Do you remember?
It was 50 cents. Yep. 50 cents.
All right.
And
And that was
I
at age
probably-
15. Is that what you said? 15
Yeah.
years old. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
What was
but
it
there
of? Do you remember?
It turned into a lot more after that. It was like I would do whole sets of NFL football helmets for friends who wanted them, and it was all pencil drawings and stuff like that. So,
Oh, that's
Oh,
neat.
wow. Yeah.
Cool.
Is that how you mostly started out with like colored pencils and like pen and ink and that sort of thing?
it was whatever I could grab. I think the first drawing that I remember was on the underneath side of a card table with folding legs, and I took a red marker and I drew a train, and it was the boxy kind of smoke coming out, kind of little train with a caboose, and so yeah, that was the first thing I remember. So
Well, that's cool.
yeah.
What kind of art do you create now?
I do I do watercolor, acrylics, and pretty much I was thinking about this before, kind of researching abstraction, and I kind of tend to be on the fence with representational art and abstract. So I'm kind of, maybe I'm midstream in an evolution, or maybe this is where I'll stay forever. But I always had a goal of photorealism. That was what I was just bent on, having it look as much like a photograph as I could. But what happens with that is you start stifling creativity. You channel everything into technique, and as a result, I'm trying to catch up with actually being creative and being a designer and maybe a painter one day. So
We're all trying for that, John.
yeah.
Yeah.
We keep trying. Maybe one day we'll make it.
Yeah. Well,
So what kind of things were you initially, when you still had creativity before people were commissioning you to work, what kind of things were you drawn to illustrate or draw?
I drew a lot of football scenes. Like, I had a couple of pro football teams that I liked, and I would draw them like action on the field, and it would all be like at the very bottom of the paper, and I'd have all these players, some of them jumping and airborne, others get tackled and stuff like that. And my art teacher at the time, Daryl Wetford at Stringtown School, he picked up my drawings, and he started giving me a little more instruction on them and how to do some things. And so I really went from art teacher to art teacher, influence, mentors throughout my whole life. And now I find myself without any students to mentor, and so I'm always looking to try to help somebody.
Oh, well, that's nice. So you're an open to having mentors right now. Okay.
Definitely.
Well,
That's awesome.
if anyone's listening that wants to take advantage of that,
Yeah.
contact John. We'll have all his contact information in the show notes later. So you were into sports related, very guy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah,
masculine
all
sort of thing.
boy for sure.
All boy.
Mhm.
Well, that's
So
pretty cool.
Where do you find your inspiration, especially now that you're moving towards, like more abstract and creativity?
Well, I will. I look at a lot of other artwork, and I found when I went up to Heron School of Art that the classroom and being around other artists and seeing what's actually done is a big difference from just kind of scrolling around on looking at images. Because if you're seeing it done and you're realizing things, then you too can just step beyond any kind of fears or hesitation for wasting materials or anything like that you might hesitate over, and start creating it because you've seen it done. That it's done by human hands. You can do it. So the classroom is a big inspiration. Being around other artists, I know there's the art group that we're a member of on Facebook has been a big source of inspiration and actually just kind of cheering other artists on. I like doing that.
Yeah, I do too. And that, unfortunately, that group's not very active. As active as I would like for it to be.
Yeah, which art group are you talking about?
It's called Evansville Artists, isn't it?
Okay, Evansville Artist Community, I think.
And
Is
that's
that
where I
what it
saw
is?
your interview first,
Yeah.
Lori. I remember you were one of the focus artists on there, and I was all about kind of critiquing and showing what I liked about your work. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
I dig that stuff.
Well, did you
Me
ever
too.
consider going into education?
Yeah, I did. But that took more education, so I pretty much just abandoned the idea.
I hear
I
it.
wish I had their schedule of summers off and all that kind of stuff, but
Yeah. So I know that you were involved with a local famous artist around here, Jerry Baum.
yeah.
How did you get involved with Jerry?
My mom being the defender of her children and art teacher and other things, she saw that I had a talent, and she sought out Jerry. She'd see him in the grocery store, she'd see him around places, and just badgered him into looking at my portfolio. And he looked at my sketches, and he was like, "Okay, I'll take him." It was always adult classes, and I was in 7th grade.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was. I loved that attention. The kind of child prodigy thing.
Yeah.
And then getting to work with a bunch of adults, the whole class, were influential, and I retained a couple of the folks as friends of mine to this day. So
That's awesome.
Is that right? Wow. That is awesome. So did Jerry's work influence you at all?
Yeah. He had I love doing trees, and he had this, perfection of just flipping the brush and limbs, and he could just pull a tree out of anything. And then he'd get out his pocket knife, and he'd start pulling them into reversing them out into areas that he'd already painted. He was something else. I've got brushes that are older than me that have been around the world that I just recently retired. So he'd given them to me. So
you'll have to put those in a frame or a showbox or something.
I'm
pretty
thinking
cool.
about maybe if there's a museum interest, local or museum here, that I might just kind of give them to them. So
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
You'd be hard pressed to walk into too many professional places that doesn't have a Jerry Baum watercolor on their wall.
That's right.
I've noticed that they're in a lot of places in Evansville.
He was very busy.
That's pretty cool. Now he has since passed, right?
Yes,
sadly.
That's one thing
Well, that's
about
cool. So
getting older is your folks start to go.
yeah, your mentors. Yes, I noticed. I've been noticing that myself too. Tessa, time does not wait for anyone.
That's right. Every one of us dies. So
that's exactly
get
right.
on with it.
So where did you go after, let's see, 7th grade, you were training with Jerry. And so then I imagine you just had your normal high school classes. And when did you get accepted into Heron School of Art? Was that right after high school?
No, I was I went to a private school that was religion based, and I tell you what, I was like a spring that had been had the thumb on it for so long, and I shot the other direction. I didn't want to go to school. In fact, it was 2 years before I went to Heron, and that was the influence of Dan Mowry, a local artist. That's he's associated with Ducks Unlimited, and just a really high end creative ability, great guy. And he's like, "John, you should do something." So I went with him up to Heron, and I got to see a Walt Disney artist named Bill Pete, and the man just wowed me. I couldn't believe what he was doing. Left-handed, right-handed, perfect renditions of Goofy and Mickey and all of them. And he'd do them on plates, and he'd frisbee them out to the crowd as they were sitting there watching him. So I
he
got
was a
into
showman. Is that where you got some of your showmanship?
Yeah. So I got into a competition there for scholarship, and I won it. And so 2 weeks later, I'm supposed to be showing up for school, and here I am living in Evansville. So I had to quickly find a place to land up there, and then just get to work. So it was something else.
Well, so what did you do in that 2 years before you went to Heron?
Oh, do you really want to know? Because I think.
I really want to know.
I think I was arrested once.
Wait a minute, what'd you say? What?
Yeah, I think I was arrested once. It was like you know, it was, back then this was 1982, and they didn't have a lot of the I don't know, educational programs that they do now for kids. So we were bored. There was
We're
nothing to
running
do.
loose and wild.
Yeah. So we partied, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well, you were
that's
building your interesting artist life at that time, weren't you?
yeah, and a lot of aches and pains, that come in later in life because of that kind of thing. But it's like I think all experiences that we have are important. They become tools that we have to relate to others that are coming up, and it turns into wisdom. So
Yes.
that's I don't regret it all, or any of it. It's all a different tool in my toolbox, if you will. So
That's a great way of looking at it. Yeah, I
yeah,
love that.
yeah.
So I understand you do a lot of commissions, correct?
A lot of commissions. In fact, that's all I do. It's in it.
That's
I
all
didn't
you do.
intend for it to become that, but it's like if I'm not um, prepaid or money down or going to be paid as it's going to be delivered, I don't paint. It's like other things
Yeah.
happen. I have to mow the grass and I got to do it. Do other things. So raise kids or yeah.
Well, that's very interesting because, Lori and I, that's not how we operate. So
Yeah.
at a point in your career, did you become a commission only? I'm not going to paint anything on spec anymore. When did this happen?
It just happened, really because I have to justify the time that I spend. Okay, especially being married and with a family. There's I'm needed in different places and for different tasks, and I need to be there. And if I've got a money making potential to do a painting, I can go to my wife and say, "Here, I need this much time to get this done. Here's what I plan," and she'll sign off on my time card.
That's funny.
She's the boss. I mean, come on.
Hey, smart man.
Yeah. Happy
That's
wife,
really-
happy life.
That's really interesting because commissions are not my favorite thing to do. So
Well, I think
So-
that as the breadwinner at the time, that was kind of what it became, the way it would just happen. But also it's like if the time card didn't get signed off on, I'm staying up late and working. And I found that's the best time to get anything done is when the phone's not ringing,
mhm.
you're not being pulled here or any other directions. Everything's quiet,
Yeah.
and I'm working. That's when
I
that's when
I
the magic
noticed.
happens.
And you still do that because I got an email from you last night in the morning, I should say, at like almost 2 in the morning.
Yeah,
I
I
love
have to
painting at
pause.
night.
I have to pause and be like, not everybody's up at this hour, John. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel creative at night, but now that I've gotten older, the couch calls.
yeah, yeah.
I'm tired by the end of the night. By the
Yeah.
end of the day, I am tired.
I couldn't tell you what's on television. I can maybe some music that's out here and there, but that's just for my daughters. But I pretty much I've become a subterranean living creative root, if you will. I don't know. I'm down here in the basement most of the time.
Have you
have no idea
have
what's
you
going
always made a living?
What's that?
Have you always made a living from your art?
Yeah. I've always been in graphics. I was newspaper for 10 years. I framed for two different studios prior to that. And then went to art school and came back and I'm newspaper. And then I was Berry Plastics doing color separations for high end, buckets, theaters, and sports, teams. And then I did some freelance. Then I got into telecommunications, making maps, and that was pretty lucrative. Simple graphics that turned into some big dollars.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then
Now, so wait a
but
minute.
not
Let's go
really.
dive into that a little bit. What are you talking about? You drew the maps? You
Yeah,
painted the maps?
telecommunications. If you look at it, like the commercials that they talk about, their fiber network, it's all the same network. They all have different levels of leasing from each other that make up their map and coverage, but it's all the same footprint across the country. There's fiber is fiber. You can't just all of a sudden throw some new ones down. You got to rent them from somebody. So I would take that fiber footprint that this company owned and expand it as they expanded it, and it turned into, I swear, a map that would take me about 45 minutes to update would land in 13,000 cubicles across the company across the nation for this country.
Wow.
For this company. So it was something else. That's like my most known artwork is not artwork at all, but more maps.
Oh wow.
and I don't know about that. I think you've made a name for yourself.
Yeah.
So tell me
cool.
Tell me about that piece. For those that are listening, get on the YouTube channel and check out the interview with John. He's got this really cool dragon looking thing in the back. And you told me that you create 3D sculptures, right? For the schools and theater and stuff like that.
Yes.
Can you talk a little more about that? That's really cool.
It turned into that volunteer work because my daughter, Elsie, my youngest, happens to be a stage presence that you just can't deny. She can sing, she can dance, she can act. So I found myself
triple threat.
Yeah, she is. I found myself wanting to get involved and support that. So we started Highland School, Wizard of Oz. She was Dorothy, and I painted a bunch of stuff for that. And then it was Tompkins and all kinds of plays there. Now it's Central High School, and I've followed her around, but done stuff for Central all at the same time. So it's a Little Shop of Horrors was the first one that I got involved in, and actually it was
fun.
Cool. And then little shop, but we carved everything out of foam and airbrushed. This is all stuff that I'd never done before, and all of a sudden in Evansville, I became a go-to guy for information on coatings and how to do this and how to do that. So that it was pretty cool. I like doing it. There's I've got one I did for Shrek, where it's kind of like a baseball hat attempt at the dragon. Okay, so my daughter wore the hat like that and has wings, and it just works so well that I've gotten into doing some more costume stuff, but all still foam related. I can show you. I don't know if you can see it over there. You can see the dragon.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what cool. I made for her. And the head of it sits on her head like a cap, and I took the insides of a hard hat from Menards, and I just put that inside of there, and it stays just right on her head. She can dance and move around.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I like that kind of stuff.
Well, that's really cool. So for our listeners that are artists, did this lead to work? Because I heard you say that you volunteered. So a lot of people, I think, they think, oh, I don't have time to volunteer. I need to make the money. So surely this led to opportunities of being paid.
It has
for different work.
It has, but theater is limited on budget. Always, sure. I find. Yeah. And so, I was kind of the mind, if I don't volunteer to do it, I'm probably not going to get an opportunity to do it. So I chose to just devote extra time, having vested interest with my daughter, and then just the community. I fell in love with the theater and the folks that operate in it and the directors. It's a huge operation for a little short time of production.
Yes.
The planning, everything goes into it.
It's a lot of work.
Yes, it is. So I take my creativity to it 100% and then some. I just want it to be. I want the kids to walk out there on stage and just be surrounded by something that just adds to their character and their performance.
Oh, that's really something.
It sounds like that gave you the opportunity to try a lot of different art mediums.
It did. I never would have gotten into foam. I wouldn't have gotten into airbrushing, which I'm still limited at. But yeah, it did. And it was just, like I said, it was either volunteer to do it or don't ever get the chance to do it. So,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Airbrushing kind of had its heyday in the 80s. Remember the local place, the local shoe carnival had those artists there. Was it Frick and Frack? Do you remember the two artists that were at the shoe carnival? And they would.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was that influenced me as a kid because I was in Yeah, I was in high school and I saw them doing that, doing caricatures and T-shirts and hats and stuff. I just thought that was super cool.
Yeah. Well,
So have
the Florida trips we would take and seeing the airbrush artists doing their thing was always, I found it really cool. But then I'm like, I don't want to do it because I want to go to the beach, you know?
yeah, self-discipline is something that we have to learn and when you
That's
work
right.
as an artist.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. You know, you have to always have your artwork set up, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to have it set up, ready to use.
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yeah.
if you have to spend time to clear a surface, set it all up, you're probably not going to do it. You're going to move on and just, skip the opportunity to be creative.
Oh, yeah. We've talked about that before on here about how getting ready for your next painting session is really important to get you in the studio.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
If it's all there, ready to go, and all you have to do is clean off a palette, then you're ahead of the game.
Right.
I'll show you real quick here. A little pan around my studio. This is my meat locker doors because it does get cold in basements in Indiana. That is a partition that
Meat locker door.
All my extra acrylics that I paint go to that partition right there, and that's because I'm a stickler about materials and not wasting them. So with that, I have to have a place to put my extra paint. So if I do squeeze any out, that's extra.
Oh yeah. Okay. It
Yeah.
took me a minute to catch on. That's really cool.
Yeah. So
Oh
that's a
man.
collection of
Yeah.
years of acrylic painting with extra stuff, and then I put some of my impression or some of my abstract stuff on there as well. In fact, I built at home for all my abstract stuff. So then I've got
I can't
another
help but
workstation.
notice a donut laying there. Is that
Yeah,
real?
that is carved out of home. And it also has a fly that lands on it, and he's really disappointed.
I'm a little disappointed. Oh man, that is really cool.
But there's another art table. I got a refrigerator. I got my shelves, various shelves, and everything. So I've got 3 complete drafting workstations that
Oh wow.
I keep an open invitation to folks to come over and create. But then
Really?
my wife limits me
That's
because
cool.
it's a basement with laundry in it. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You got it all
that's
decked out.
okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I have
got a
a
wardrobe
basement
change.
studio with a
I've
cat
got
litter
my-
box in it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, Lori, he's got shirts like you have on. You guys
Yeah.
have the coolest shirts.
Yeah.
I
got
don't
this.
have any cool
The
shirts.
Van Gogh experience. Is that what it was? I think. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did you
I'm
see
wearing
that?
Frida.
Saw it in
Frida,
Cincinnati. Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah. I would love to see it. I have not seen it.
You know,
Me
the
too.
best part of it was at the end, and I didn't know what was happening. They have a virtual thing where you can pay $5 and put the goggles on. And you sit in a swivel chair against the wall, and you proceed to just enter his artwork, and it was just amazing.
Oh, wow. I
Yeah.
have not heard of that.
Yeah, it's
Now
you
we
go
made a
through-
trip. Okay.
Yeah, you start out in his little garret, in his little apartment, his attic apartment. You go down the stairs and out into the lawn, and he's on that farm. You go through one of his paintings, and it's the real it's like the settings, but it's all his hand painted style. And you move down
wow.
the trails, and they talk to you, and then you burst through another painting at the end, and you're back in his little studio.
Oh,
It's
wow.
cool.
that is really cool. I'll have to remember if I get to go to that, I'll pay for that virtual
Oh yeah,
thing at the
yeah.
end. That
Yeah.
sounds really cool. A few years ago, Lori and some other friends of ours, artist friends, went to see the Picasso exhibit in Nashville.
Yeah.
And
it
it was really
awesome.
good. It wasn't an immersive experience though, like that was.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures from that. It looks really cool, and I'm
Mhm.
kind of jealous.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thanks for the studio tour. That was really cool.
Yeah. I'm curious, John, what do you find the most challenging about being an artist?
Well, there's the artists that I know that have different levels of skills in different areas. Like there's some designers that can't draw at all, but they can put together any set of objects in the most amazing ways. From textured backgrounds to whatever. That's the designing part is a challenge for me. And I think it comes from, like I said before, the years of having a goal of photorealism. I was just limited to what was in that photograph I was working from.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think some of the I like doing collage stuff, several, like 3 different images of the same, if it's a musician or whatever, in the same piece of art. And that's kind of what kind of kept my style or my design kind of going over the years. But I
Mhm.
really just almost worked myself into a technical skill, and that's it. I was just like a copy machine, pretty much.
Isn't that interesting? Because for non-artists, for artists, we feel stifled a lot of times by that. Not everyone. I mean, it
Mhm.
does, it takes some creativity to pick out what you're going to do. Anyway, but for the non-artists, they are so impressed with the photorealism. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I've found that especially locally,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
from other people,
And if you call yourself a
it's
portrait
just-
artist, that's even more of a prerequisite, is that it's got to look just like them.
yes,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I tend to appreciate the more abstract of, like, being able to distort features and have it still look like them. I can't do that.
Yeah.
I can't
Oh
do
yeah.
caricatures. I just never could.
Really? You have to
Yeah.
I love
capture the
that.
essence of the person. Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. That's a
Right.
gift right there.
So just being stifled by your technical, focusing on technical was
Yeah.
the most challenging part. Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you moving away from that now?
Am I away from that?
Yeah. Are you moving out of that?
I am starting to free up more, and I believe that doing some abstract work, and just, I find that when I'm looking around on Pinterest or whatever, I land on these artists that are abstract to a degree.
Mhm.
And it made me wonder, it's like, how do you get to that point? What happens
Mhm.
there? So
Mhm.
yeah.
So when you say abstract, you're talking more about like abstracted objects, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a video that I would suggest watching, and it's by PBS, and it's called The Case for Abstract.
I think I've seen
And
that.
it does a great job explaining how that that medium, or if you will, that genre, developed. And it's much more expansive than I thought, and it encompasses impressionism and all kinds of things over the years. Even goes back to the cave times, with the drawing of the elephants and everything on the walls. The abstract is like a couple of degrees off of true representation.
Mhm.
So, but there's so many different ways to do it, that I find it intriguing to see an artist go from being traditional in their style to abstract work. So
Yeah.
Well,
I
that
might be
sounds
getting
like
together
another
soon.
podcast. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think we should explore that further. We'll have to have you on again and talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, John, I'm also curious. We've talked on this podcast before about art community and the importance of having an art community. I
Mhm.
understand that you're a part of a pretty close-knit community, you and the two other Johns.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your initial remark, it is so important to be part of a community, because being able to see something done that you've maybe seen a finished result but never seen the techniques involved to getting there is so important. There's some amazing things going on in our area. There's a place called Gore Galore that does world renowned haunted house elements,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
they
wow.
do it all at a place in Cynthiana, and it's like a series of outriggen barns that have come together to this just mecca of amazing gore artwork.
I actually have a
Wow.
friend that used to work there.
Man, I
I've never
was
heard of it.
yeah. If you see the stuff, but it's like somebody had to make it. It's done here. It's done
Yeah.
locally.
Neat.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's crazy.
And
Yeah,
if
that's
you
awesome.
as a student, if you don't see that, then you limit yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I think you have to expand your horizons and even if explore things that maybe you're not interested in. You might
That's right.
find out that you are interested in stuff.
Yeah. So the classroom is a
Right.
great way to tap into that, seeing other students doing what they do and different styles, and you learn to appreciate other styles instead of just kind of dismissing or whatever, just being self-focused. It's great to just be part of something and have an assignment where you're all doing the same kind of thing in your own kind of way. So
Right.
Now, are you talking about in a classroom setting or in your community, your little
well,
community that
that
you've
was
got?
more of the classroom. That was up at like
Okay.
at Heron that I
Okay.
refer to that. But
Mhm.
my peers here locally, there's John Co, John Fuchs, and John Hamby, and we're the three Johns,
The three
and
Johns.
we get together and have lunch, and we tell lies and stories, and share creative ideas, and then we part. And what happens after that is like we think of things and we reach out to each other and we talk and really just kind of draw on each other's experiences and we encourage each other. There's
Yeah.
different styles among us and
Yeah.
a couple levels of accomplishment, but it's all about being an artist. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And I know those guys. They are great guys. John
Yeah,
Co was my art teacher in high school and a
yeah,
big influence on me even
yeah,
before then. And we both know John Fuchs. So
Yeah.
he's just super
yeah,
nice guy. So I guess you're fitting in with some nice guys. You must be a nice guy too.
yeah. And
Yeah.
and with my tendency to be an asshole, those guys are really really good for me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, John Co told me one time he's led a very PG life, a PG life.
Yeah,
And that was a good life to have.
yeah, he's something else. I met him in 1984.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
That would have been the year I met him. Well, actually I met him before then. I took a
he had
class when I was in about in 7th grade.
yeah, yeah. I heard he was a good teacher. I wish I could have been in
He was an
some of his classes, but
he was an excellent teacher. And you know what he taught more than anything was creativity is what
yeah,
I remember.
Mm.
That's
yeah,
what I took from that. He taught us not to see what he's doing, how to think out of the box and come up, expand your creativity. And that's what I remember.
yeah.
So we'll
Those
have
are,
to maybe see if we can get John Co on here sometime too, though,
oh
or
yeah, hey,
and John Fuchs. Yeah, yeah.
I can get him on.
Yeah.
You have
I
to
can.
help him. Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
trick 'em. I'll tell them I'll
Hook
be
us
buying
up.
food for them, and they'll show up hungry, and then you can interview them.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about on your art
Um,
community?
well,
Do you
let's
guys
see
meet
here. What do I
every so
have?
often?
Actually, just no. I think we covered it really good. I think there's just an operation, a function that an artist needs to have. Like I said, you need to have it all set up all the time, ready to create. Inspiration, it can happen from anywhere at any time. And then just having a spirit of giving, because if you're in this for the money, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know a little bit about that, but there
Yeah,
are ways. There are ways.
yeah.
So, John, what is your main focus right now?
My main focus is just turning out creative products. It wasn't that long ago that I realized that I had a neuropathy that was starting, and my hands had felt numb where they weren't in it, and I got into a panic, and I pretty
Oh,
much
yeah.
just went all out from then. It hasn't gotten any worse, and that's been about
That's
5 years
good.
that I've just constantly had projects, waiting in line to be done. So
Mhm.
staying busy. I didn't think there were any more corners to be turned as an artist and technique, but there certainly are. I think until we die. So it's a perpetual student, learning is what we have to approach our lives with.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Now, have you got any advice for any of our listeners? Some last
Uh,
parting advice as we get to the end of our interview?
I think so. Let's see. Probably you want to always kind of you want to promote yourself, but not selfishly. Okay. You have to hold on. I got to take these off here. I wrote something down for this. It can be about price and doing artwork for money, but I think, and it can be if you let it be about their budget first. I always approach my projects thinking, all right, I'm going to spend this like it's somebody else's money, and I'm responsible for the receipts and justifying it. So I will price my artwork to their budget. to each individual budgets when I do commission stuff. So that, I mean, that's a good approach. But I would think that I wish somebody would have told me to be a plumber and just be really good at artwork. Writing checks for bills and stuff like that. But just be creative and remember that when you do so, you're blowing the dust off of your soul and you're giving yourself some fresh air. So I think we are at an advantage in our lives and our securities and being well-rounded people because of we have something to be creative with. So,
mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like it's been a good life. Yeah, it sounds like it's been a good life for you being an artist.
It has so far. Yeah,
that's
it
great.
has.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, John. We appreciate you taking time out and talking to us.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
been really interesting learning about your life, and we look forward to having you back on.
All right. Well, give me a shout, and I will come around.
All right. Well, we will have all of John's contact info, which John does not have a website. So we'll have ways that you can contact John if you'd like to on our show notes. And other stuff related to Creative Type Podcast is on there as well. We are still looking for some ideas on movies. Now, we just got a new one today talking about the case for abstract with John. Remember, we're looking for ideas for movies for an upcoming episode. So we'll add that one and give you credit for that, John.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Creative Type Podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye-bye.